So we are continuing our sermon series, None of Your Business. And this Sunday, we're going to talk about karma. So let's talk about karma. We love those moments where there's this instant karma, where somebody does something and then immediately the appropriate response to balance it happens to come around, like someone blowing through a school bus, potentially putting little kids in danger. And then, oh, that cop right there, we all smile. Maybe you give a laugh like that guy gave a laugh. That's what we call karma. That's what we think about when we say the word karma. This kind of instant justice back to the right. Usually in a negative way, right? Bringing somebody back to the right. But this term karma, it's not a justice term, it's a religious term. It comes out of the Hindu faith. And then was co-opted by the Buddhists, and it just means the whole sum total of a person's actions. And the idea here is that at the end of your life, all of the good actions and all the bad actions would be summed up, and then, if you have anything, you'll be reincarnated. The goal for Buddhism and Hinduism is actually to not have life anymore. It's not to get better and better life. It's to not have it. Which is antithetical, right, to Christianity. Our understanding is that life is a gift, and theirs is that life is a burden. But this karmic understanding, we don't usually talk about it in the religious sense. We talk about it as that moment where things are going to get made even. And our story picks up where we left off last week. So Pastor Scott was talking about that moment where Peter was fishing, and he was out all night throwing the net over the boat, and he wasn't catching anything. And, Jesus, somebody from the shoreline says, throw it on the other side of the boat, as if Peter hadn't thought of that. And he throws the net over the other side of the boat, and he starts pulling up all these fish, and his net doesn't break. And it's miracle on top of miracle. We all recognize the miracle of having so many fish, but that there's this miracle, this kind of everyday miracle. I love these miracles, right, where the net didn't break. I've encountered these. You've encountered these miracles. It's not like if you have a plate with a bunch of egg yolk on it, and the egg yolk is super hard, and then, I don't know, maybe your spouse or wife puts it in the dishwasher as if that's going to get it clean, but then she puts the dishes so close together that the water's never actually going to touch that plate, and then somehow you open it up, and you're just sure that the egg's going to be there, and you're going to be right, but it's not, and somehow it had to be a miracle. Don't ask me where I got that analogy. It's just, making things up. This stuff where Jesus calls on Peter and he's having a conversation with him. Jesus does these little miracles all the time. And when Peter's coming in and he sees Jesus on the shoreline, he's ready for that karma conversation, right? Because Peter knows what happens. He's seen Jesus kind of pop up randomly ever since his resurrection. You'll remember that the disciples were praying in a locked room and Jesus showed up there. Right? So Peter has seen the resurrected Jesus, and Peter knows that he has denied Jesus. Denied him 3 times before the cock crowed, wouldn't have anything to do with him, left the mission. Now he's gone back to his life. How easy is it to go back to the life that you think you should be leading? Which is what he did. He went back to the life that he thought he should be leading as a fisherman. And here Jesus kind of catches him in the act. Peter denied Jesus, abandoned him, and abandoned God's mission. Time for the meet Jesus moment. And that's what happens in a sense. Jesus comes in, he asks Peter, do you love me? Now we're going to get in the weeds here a little bit because that do you love me is lost in the English. The word love, there's only one word for love in English, but in the Greek there are 3 different words that we can read in the Bible. And the first one Jesus says, he says, do you agape me? That's the Greek word, agape. Now that agape is a certain kind of love. It's an unconditional love. It is the love of God. It is a godly love that is overwhelming. And Jesus asks Peter that. He says, Peter, do you unconditionally love me? Are you up here? You got me, Peter? Peter says, well, Jesus, I phileo. It's a brotherly love. I brotherly love you. Well, that's not really what Jesus wanted to hear, right? So he says, all right, Peter. Then he asks him again. He says, Peter, do you unconditionally love me? And Peter says, oh, man, no, man, I denied you 3 times. I abandoned you. I abandoned the mission of God. I can't say that I unconditionally love you, but I do brotherly love you. Now, that's an honest answer. You know, you ask a question, sometimes you want a particular answer. Now, you might not get that answer, but you can't be mad when you get the honest answer. When you get the honest answer, then at least you know you're talking to an honest person. You know where you're standing. And so when Peter said, I brotherly love you, you know, the pastor in me wants to give him a hug and say, well, we'll go with that. But Jesus goes another step. He asks him a 3rd time. Now, what's going on here, Peter? Why? What's going on? He asks, and Jesus asks, he doesn't say, do you unconditionally love me? He lowers the bar. And he says, Peter, do you at least brotherly love me? Now, this is one of those moments that's full of pain that you just can't see in the letters and the print. Because behind that lowering of the bar, right, Jesus said, well, I want you here. I want you here, and you're here, but can you even be here? It's one of those moments. You ever have one of these moments with your children, or maybe your parents have said this? They said, I'm not mad at you. I'm disappointed. That's what Jesus was doing right there. I'm disappointed. I want you here. I need you here. The world needs you here, Peter, but you denied me 3 times. You abandoned me, and I find you fishing and abandoning the mission. I'm not mad at you. I'm just disappointed. And then Jesus goes on to tell Peter this thing that he's never going to understand in that moment. He says, hey, you know, when you were younger, you tied your own belt, but when you're older, you're going to hold your hands up, and someone's going to tie your belt for you, and they're going to pull you around. And Jesus isn't talking about fashion, what kind of belt he should be wearing. What Peter is going to experience is that he is going to give up his will. He will actually die. He will die a death that is full of the unconditional love that he doesn't believe that he has. And the reason that Peter is able to die the death that is an unconditionally lovable death that he didn't think he could have is because the relationship between Peter and Jesus was broken when Peter denied Jesus, and it was restored when Jesus forgave him. When Jesus forgave Peter, what Jesus was doing was recognizing that Peter has value, has worth, simply because of who he is, not because of what he's done. Because he hasn't done anything, has he? He has denied, he has abandoned, he has returned to his way of life. He hasn't done a single thing worthy of lifting up. And yet Jesus tells him, look, someone's going to take you and make you do what you don't want to do. And that's what happened. Peter died. They actually crucified him upside down. Because Peter said, I'm not worthy to die the same death as my Lord. So they said, okay, we'll just turn you upside down and kill you that way. And Peter said, thank you very much. That's not what made Peter worthy. What made Peter worthy was because of who he was, because of whose he was. You see, Peter wasn't special because he was Simon, the son of John. Peter was special because he was Peter, the son and brother of Jesus Christ. And Jesus said, I'm going to fix this relationship. I'm going to make sure that we are good. You have wronged me, you have wronged me, you have wronged me, and I forgive you. That's the first thing about grace, is it happens in relationship. See, if Peter had never had anything to do with Jesus again, could he have been fixed? If Jesus had never had anything to do with Peter, it couldn't have been fixed. But it happened that they wanted to be in relationship together, and Jesus forgave him. And that's what it looks like to be in a relationship. That's the first thing about grace, is that it is fixable. It is worthy of being fixed. If you have a phone and it's been working all day, grace. Say, oh, my phone is out of battery. I guess I should just give it grace. I should be okay with it. No! You look at the phone and you go, come on, work, and you shake it a little bit. If you go home and it's not catching the internet, you know what I do? I do that find the internet game, right? Where you try and, where's the internet? Can I get it over here? Right? I'm not asking if it's had a bad day and it needs to take a second. I need it to work right then and there. And if it doesn't work, I do one of two things, right? What do? You either fix it or you throw it away because it's trash. But you don't do that with people. You don't throw people away. People are never trash. And this is what Jesus is getting at. That you can be broken. The relationship can be broken. There can be all kinds of badness in between our Lord and ourselves, but He is willing to forgive it and get it out of the way. He's going to give us the grace necessary so that relationship can be mended. Because it can only be mended in a relationship. And the other thing is about grace is that the one who broke it can't fix it. Or if I could fix the thing that I broke, then it wasn't really broke, right? That's an oopsie. That's a my bad. If I call you by the wrong name, I can fix that. We can get that right. That's not a real problem. If I step on your toes, assuming it didn't break anything, right? That's not a real problem. That's a my bad. If a spouse cheats on the other spouse, the cheater can't come up to their former spouse and say, oh, my bad, give him a kiss on the forehead. Sorry, you're upset about that. As if it could be fixed that simply. When we break something, when we are the breakers, we can't fix it. That's what it means to be broken. And that's why grace is so amazing, because the only way that grace can be given is when the breaker has no ability to fix it, when they have no power to make the things right, when they hold no control over getting anything the way that it was once upon a time. Grace can only happen when the person who was hurt says, I forgive you. And that's what our Lord says. He says, I want to be in relationship with you. I love you so much, I'm willing to forgive you no matter what you do. This is the most amazing thing about grace. See, this is the thing. Like, even if you didn't believe God, you should want to believe this. That there is a God above all gods who loves you and wants to be in relationship with you no matter what you did. That is amazing. And no matter how far you've strayed, no matter what you think you've done, no matter how horrible of a person you are, there's grace for that. That's the beauty about Jesus, is He died so that we might have the grace necessary to receive His unconditional love. God's grace is completely different from karma, because karma means we're going to get what's coming to us. All of the things that we've done, all the things we didn't do, all of the things that we should have done get added up, and that's going to create a balance. And grace says, I don't care about the balance. I care about the being. I care about the relationship. I care about continuing on with something beautiful that I've made, this human and this relationship that we can have together. You are not a slave, loved only when you do right by God. You are a child of God, loved always. Thanks be to God.